So Eric, my question for you is investing in Africa, right? Growing up in New York City, the brand of Africa was not the greatest, right? It was indoctrinated in our minds of, just seeing skinny, children that, flies around their head. That was the brand that was in a lot of people's mind that never been to the continent. And obviously today is different because we have phones and we have ChatGPT and we have Google. But in the 80s and 90s, we didn't necessarily have that access to information. So now, today in 2025, right, we have everything, right? We are able to access information. We can take a flight, etc. So, and this is a very broad question because Africa is not a country, it's a continent, right? But where are the opportunities for investment in the continent of Africa? And, you can pick specific industries or you can look at specific countries, right? So if now for the individuals here that are just really interested of just exploring more, right? Point us to the direction.
Very tough question to answer, but I'll give it a shot. So yes, 54 countries. So when I started, I asked myself, which are the low-hanging fruits? Now, generally, entrepreneurship is hard, investing is hard, doing it in Africa is double hard, and takes double longer time. So my first advice to you is that anything that you do, when you go to Africa, it will take double the effort and double the time. So if a fund is 10-year life, it will take you 20 years. When I started with Tinyiko, I told them we're going to only make money in 20 years, and we're 12 years into it. It's almost like I'm a prophet. But I'm not. Because when I was building companies, I'm an entrepreneur, and Tinyiko is an entrepreneur as well. It just takes longer and it takes harder to build stuff. And that's just the real truth. But also that is emblematic of a continent that is emerging. The infrastructure is not there, there's railroads, etc. Right? But that is also the opportunity. So for every business that you think about, I always tell people, look for the easiest thing to do in Africa, because that easiest thing is still going to be very hard. Now, I'm being very realistic and very honest with you, right? And so the opportunities are there in the challenges. You can see the challenge and say, oh, or you can see that, okay. And then walk yourself back and say, oh, people don't have clean water in Africa, so I'm going to make clean water as a business, and you'll succeed. So this is the way I look at opportunities in Africa. And then I come from a tech background, so then I say, how are you using tech to solve those problems? And that's what we call the digital economy, which is the new economy that is emerging on the continent. And we see this in 5 key countries. So I wrote a book called The Kings: Kenya, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa. So that's the 5 countries that we started in. And then we took angel fare to those 5 countries. We started in South Africa, like I said. We went to the Kings. Then we had a big fight. Everybody said, let's stay in the Kings because those are the countries that are winning. And I said, no, let's now go outside of the comfort zone. So we went to Mozambique. We went to Tanzania. And we're going to do Senegal, then COVID hit. Right. But the thing I'm trying to say there is that, so we went from going to the easiest countries to solve first, right? And built a brand and figured out the model before we went to the countries that are more difficult to do stuff in. And that's just the reality of Africa. Right? What does it mean? It means that we are trying to build a track that allows us to scale, because Africa is very heterogeneous. Now for this event, the country in which we do it, as a firm, we spend between 6, in some cases 9 months in that country. What are we doing? Because we are doing the event there, it's our focus country. So we spend so much time learning about the country, going there. I personally live in the country. I go there, I stay for 3 months, sometimes 6 months. So why are you doing that? So we as a firm want to invest in those countries. So we invest in understanding the market, environment, meeting the entrepreneur, because that's how you know how things happen in the country. You can fly in and fly out and it doesn't work. I mean, you've heard stories that people go to Africa, Africa doesn't work. Yeah, because you came in a private jet, you stayed at a Novotel, you're driving a limo, you get a driver, So you don't really get the economy. You don't really experience. I know. I ride matatus. I rent an apartment. I go to the local restaurant. Then I get a feel of how the economy actually works. So when an entrepreneur is talking to me, I can smell the bullshit from far away. And that's how we're able to weed through the chaps. And we're able to invest. We invested in Mozambique. We invested in Zambia. So, long story, but a bit complicated. Maybe I give you some chasing of how to look at Africa and how to see opportunity. The last thing is, I believe, some people don't agree with me, that you should visit Africa before you invest. The reason is that when you touch the continent, the reality just is different from what you read. So yes, social media is great. It's democratized media, and it's made Africa much more transparent. You can see the reality of what is happening. But your foot touching the ground just gives you a reality that you cannot get on social media. So I always encourage guys that if you want to invest, that's why we do the events. So come that, be on the ground, meet the entrepreneur, and the reality will just give you that ability to feel what you're doing and realize that this entrepreneur will succeed or not succeed, because now you have a feel of what is going on.